Alright, hello and welcome to a very mini episode I'm kind of going to do. We're covering another Grimm's Brother fairy tale. It's the second one in the book. It's got a title so long I'm going to have to look it up real quick. Give me a sec here. A Tale of One Who Traveled to Learn What Shivering Meant. That's what it's about. It's about a guy that doesn't know what it means to shiver, what it means to be cold, and his journey to figure that out. And I'm going to do my best real quick here to describe what that journey is. Hang on, is this working? Is this working the way I thought it would? No, it's not working the way I thought it would. Hang on. We got some technical difficulties. I'm trying to pull up MS Paint to explain this story. Okay, alright, I got it fixed. And not only do I have it fixed, I have my whole configuration set up to where I can just really kind of draw here pretty freely. So we start off the story where there's a dad and he's got two kids, they're both boys. He's got a smart one and he's got a dumb one. And the dumb one, he's all like, shivering? He's never heard of it. He doesn't do it. And he's like, he really wants to know. He's like, what does that word mean? He's like, I've never done it. Apparently, people get cold. Like, he does not understand it. And his dad and his brother, you know, they're both smart. You know, they're able. The guy is so dumb. It says literally in the book directly this line that he is incapable of learning. So let's put a little note here. He cannot learn. Like, period. So his dad says, okay, alright, you want to know what it means to shiver. He's like, I think you need to learn what it means to shiver so you can make a wage and you can earn stuff. So his dad says, hey man, you should get a job at the church. Over there, you're going to be operating the... Let me draw it right here. You're going to be operating like the little bell tower. And he's saying, if you do that, you're going to learn what it means to shiver because you're going to be all like, oh, I got to make money. I got to do this on time. He's talking about a bunch of life stuff. He's talking about life shivering at the church. Talking about that. So he goes into the job, right? He does it. But then it doesn't end up working out for some reason, because throughout the story, like, we've got these like scary kind of little demon guys. They're more of ghosts. I thought about them as demons in like the book, but they're more so like spooky ghosts, kind of like this, because they're described as like being like white and all that. So little ghost comes by the church, scares him, so he ends up pushing the ghost like down the stairs. And then when he wakes up, it turns that the ghost was actually the priest. I gotta give him like a little hat. And didn't go well for the priest. So he had to go back home. And then once he's back home, they kick him out there too. So he can't really do anything at home. So, and his dad is so mad at him for like failing his job at the church so hard, I guess, that he kicks him out. He fully disowns him. So now the dumb guy, right? He's just kind of like out walking now. And then And then so he's out walking on this road, and a wagoner, a guy that no, because before that happened, there was this other merchant guy. Here, let me draw like my interpretation of what merchants are like. And he's got really kind of a cocky gait, and he's got this whole like bag of stuff. It's like pooling. It's pooling up behind him. He's got like rags. It's a big bag of stuff he sells. And he says, shivering. He's like, he says like, he gives him the very right recommendation of just stay outside. Like when it's cold out at night. And he was so dumb. This was like a whole light bulb moment for him. He's like, I never thought about that. So he does it. He just like stays outside. But here's the real kicker. Because guess what? That also doesn't work. That also doesn't work for him to learn what shivering means. Because like wherever he like ends up staying, he just is able to like build himself a fire. Like he's able to just like he just builds himself a fire, and he's like, okay, I'm waiting to shiver. It's supposed to happen. But then guess what? We got more ghosts coming by. And they're real spooky. And he was told to wait under a tree. That's what I'm drawing here right now. I'm drawing the tree he was like supposed to sit under, that the merchant told him to. And the merchant even said, he's like, if you don't learn what shivering means by staying under this tree, he's like, I will pay you $50. So we got a whole $50 on the line here. And then these ghosts, they're telling him, they're like, they say, hey, this is a NFA zone. They're saying this is a no fire allowed zone. And then he's like, and then he's like, no. And then he says, I'll hang you. So he ends up like somehow hanging all the demons, all the ghosts, and like getting him. By the time the other guy comes back, he doesn't get his $50 because he's like, I didn't learn what shivering meant. I just took care of the ghosts. Like it was no issue. So then he still doesn't know what shivering means. So he's like, okay, something's gotta happen to where he learns what shivering means. So he goes, a wagoner comes by. It's a guy that rides a wagon, He's like up top here. And he sees this guy walking. The guy that doesn't know what it means to shiver. And that now the real fairy tale part like kicks in, where he says, the king should help. He says the king should be able to help him with learning how to shiver. So what does he do? The really dumb guy? Well, first he stops in a bar, and he meets the wagoner's wife, has a couple drinks, and that's where he hears about the whole deal with the castle. He hears about a deal with the castle. And basically they say, like, yeah, you got to survive 3 nights watching over the castle. And that's how you learn what shivering means. Like, you gotta 3 nights. Apparently it's really scary there in the castle. So they're like, that's what you gotta do. And, you know, awesome as ever, like, sure as whatever, he goes up to the king. And in the story, it's kind of weird. Like, the king, he says he just really likes how he looks. Like, he just really likes his, like, physical appearance, I guess. So he looks at him and he's like, yeah, you. And again, our main character, he's just kind of like, okay. Sorry, I just really like that face I drew. Okay. Um, let's move on with the story. So, what he does is so he goes into the. Oh yeah, he was allowed 3 items into the castle, and he took a lathe. I don't really know what that is, but basically he took more stuff to make more fire. Like, that's not completely against the goal of what he's supposed to do, like learning to shiver. But yeah, he brings more fire. That's all he really uses. So he's just kind of in what I imagined in this story. He was just kind of in this room. There was like a little bed area, like right here. There's a bench. And then I imagine there's got to be like a couple windows. I think there was like a window like right here. And it was all a big stone room. And you had to stay in here for 3 nights, kind of, you know, like protecting over such yada yada. Like all kind of like stones, like stone cracks and stuff. It's actually pretty good right here. Yeah, okay. This was his setup. This was his gamer setup, and then he put his fire like right like in the middle here, and then he's just laying next to it all night, and he's just sitting here. He's like, okay, when am I gonna shiver? He's like, when's it gonna happen? So I'm gonna lower my brush size just so I don't erase more of this background stuff as I go. We don't really need these details. I can draw stuff up here. Sorry, I'm thinking out loud a bit more. I thought this would be a really fun way to go about some of these Grimm Brother fairy tales because they're so short. I don't think I'd do an entire book like this, but like for the fairy tales, this is really fun. So I can't remember about the first night. Oh yeah. So the first night, it was a bunch of little like cats and dogs that showed up. They were all black. There's a cat. It was like 2 black cats that showed up, and of course this is a fairy tale, so they just started talking. And they wanted to play cards with him, but he's like, I brought no cards in with me. I just brought stuff for fire. You know, survival type shit. And they're like, that's not really cool. So, they start to jump him. But he takes care of them. He ends up throwing the cats out of the window. Like an absolute beast. But then, unexpectedly, a bunch of cats. There's like cat here. There's like a cat here. There's cats everywhere. And there's dogs everywhere too. Like all around him. They literally said they were all circling him in like a black mass. And he fights all of them. And he beats all of them. Night 1. So he's doing pretty good for night 1. He's doing just as good as Ben Stiller in the first night of Night at the Museum. He's doing pretty awesome. King comes back the next day, and because he's sleeping by the fire, the king thinks he's like, oh, he died, but he didn't die. He was just asleep. And then he's like, okay, how about night 2 comes along? Night 2 comes along. They're all a bunch of really strong guys and more ghosts like from earlier that show up. But again, he's like, he does really well. So he just picks him up, throws him out the window. And then he takes care of them on night 2. On night 2 as well, really weird thing that happens. He tries out the bed. He didn't actually sleep in the bed because he slept by the fire. But he slept in the bed, and then the bed... I'm going to draw this as best I can. The bed, like, this is like a side view of the bed. It grows, like, legs. So the legs of it, like, actually, like, it grows legs. And it runs away. After, like, trying to beat him up again. So... yeah, after that, he has no bed to sleep in, but he's still pretty chill with that because he's just trying to know what shivering means. He didn't really need the quilts anyways, so he just goes back to the fire because he's trying to learn what shivering. I am doing the best I can to say what I actually just read. I just got done reading this no less than 10 minutes ago, and this is my actual best recall of what it was, because, and, like, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is what happened. So yeah, his bed grows legs and runs away. and then the third night comes, and there's 6 guys that show up, and they're said to be very tall and wearing black. And they're holding a coffin. They're like doing the coffin dance. Hang on. So, and in the coffin is apparently this guy's cousin. So he goes. So he goes and he's like, "Oh, my cousin." He's not dead. He just needs to be warmed up. So he puts his cousin's, like, dead body, like, right by the... Whoa, what did I do? Hang on. Am I good? Okay, so he puts his cousin's dead body, like, by the fire, and he's trying to do, like, the Mr. Miyagi thing where he, like, warms him up with his hands. And then maybe the bed didn't run away because I think they mention it here again, or maybe he's on the bench. I don't know. But basically, what ends up happening is, apparently this guy that was so dumb and is like, you just need to be warmed up, go by the fire. Apparently he was right about the whole thing. But when his cousin wakes up, though, he just like looks at him deadpanned, and like in the best way I could say this. No, hang on, hang on. I want to really do this right. And in like the best way he can say it, most plain English, he says, I will strangle you now. And then he does. His cousin strangles him, but again, he just kind of throws him out the window, like how he takes care of all of his, like how he takes care of every single problem he's been faced with, just brutally and straight on. And then I think the ghosts come back. I'm not going to draw those again. And then we're done with this scene. The king comes back and he's like, you've done it. And he's like, but I still haven't learned what shivering means. And the king is like, you've done the thing that wins you the prize of my daughter, so it doesn't really matter what shivering means, because you're a prince now. He becomes a prince. Even though his dad and his brother told him he would learn nothing, he's become a prince now. That's kind of how the story goes. But he's not interested in any of that. No. If you've been paying attention, he's the prince, but he doesn't care about being a prince. So even though he's got everything in the world now, he's like, I just want to learn what shivering means. So he's like, you know what? His now wife, the princess, they're in very fancy like ball gowns and stuff. She's got her whole veil on. And she dumps a bunch of water on him. A bunch of cold river water. And then he exclaims, I now know what shivering means, because this is the first time he's like ever been cold. He's like dripping wet. And that's how the fairy tale ends. That's how the fairy tale ends. He learns what it means to shiver, because after all this, his wife dumped a freaking bucket of water on his head. This was so dumb. I love doing this channel. I really do. Because like, I get to learn, I get to draw, I get my creative outlet. And man, it's just pretty fun sometimes. Alright, well, that's the tale of a man who traveled to learn what shivering meant. Now that we're done with kind of the portion right there of it, I'd like to take some time and talk about some of the things that I think some of the deeper meanings of it for just a little bit, because I think there's a little more to this than I'm letting on. I think the brother that was really dumb, what I noticed by the end of it was there's a very good correlation between the brother actually being fire and things fire entailed. Like the very idea that he is warmth and he is what makes people not shiver is somewhat important when given the entire narrative structure on how it works, because again, fire gives us life. Fire like wards us from the actual dangers of the environment, and you see that directly happen in the story multiple times as he just makes fire. Fire was also said to be like the tool of man. If you look at Prometheus and other Greek tales, you can see that very clearly there. There's kind of this idea that fire is a force for good, and it's what stops us from shivering. And a lot of people overthink the need. a lot of people overthink the need to shiver, and it's also saying that the less you can think about your problems sometimes, or the more problems you really have are really in your head. Because you could say that this dumb brother, he didn't have much problems, but again, it's because he wasn't thinking that much, because most of our problems we really think about aren't really our problems. If you catch what I'm saying. It's all very complicated. I'm not so sure some of my fan base would really understand that, but no, I did really enjoy this, reading this. I thought it was very fun, and I'm probably going to be back very soon doing another MS Paint style video to another fairy tale, because I had clearly, I think a lot of you could tell I had a lot of fun doing it. All right, I will catch you guys in the next video, and I will see you. So peace.